Let's get to some hands-on activity. This is fun class. This is just Matplotlib basics. What is Matplotlib? It's again another package. Okay, a package that has been developed by Python guys, so that you can put in your numbers and set your, whatever I'm doing every time I draw X and I draw Y. Right, that's what I do many times. Every time I want to describe something, I will simply draw a curve. Right. So this thing cannot happen. This is only for explanation and teaching and stuff. But when you actually want to do the analysis, you would want Python to draw this x-axis and y-axis. You want Python to bring in that data, which is the real data which has been given to you by a client. You want to plot it, and then you want to start asking for some descriptions, different kinds of depictions of the data. Then you try to calculate all this mean and median and standard deviation, variance, distributions, all of that. So that's what we are going to do now. How do you actually get Python to do it? Right, so to get Python to do it, Python people have written packages, libraries, modules, whichever way you want to address it. Right now at this point of time, you can just interchange all this, but there are technical definitions for all this, but let's not get there right now. Some modules are there. One of the module is what numpy. What is numpy? Numerical Python. Okay, so all these numerical calculations. One is SciPy. What is this? Scientific Python. All your scientific calculations are here. Numerical calculations are like, okay, geometric progression and all those arithmetic progression, distributions, all of those algorithms, the real algorithm, real mathematical algorithms related, all those algorithms which are there, what you studied in engineering, proved it, wrote it, and all of that, matrices, multiplication, all of that has been converted into computer algorithms using all the lists and other array lists, arrays and functions and dictionaries. Using all of that, they've already written a package that is in NumPy. Then all your scientific calculations like fluid dynamics and these Reynolds numbers and everything that is related to physical world, the algorithms have been packed in SciPy, and SciPy builds on NumPy. Okay, using NumPy only, the newer algorithms will be added, and that new package is now called as SciPy. Okay, like that. For graphics and to depict the data, we have Matplotlib, and the newest one is Seaborn. Okay, we are going to do both, but now we are going to do Matplotlib, and whenever there is a requirement for Seaborn, I will be covering both. And Seaborn is much more livelier and more colorful, and if you want to generate reports and stuff, definitely go with Seaborn. But easy to teach Matplotlib because it's basic and it's easy to start with. Even Saipon is easy. But let's go with MATLAB because it shouldn't be the case tomorrow that you will feel that, oh, I don't know Matplotlib and stuff. This is basic. Everyone knows this. Okay. So that's the whole idea of. So tomorrow, if you want to do some image processing, what will you do? You will start looking for an image processing package. Tomorrow, you want to do finance, you will start looking for a finance package. Somebody would have written, Python would have written some. There are many people writing and contributing to Python. So it's all, many packages are already there. So one such package is your Matplotlib. So because we are going to calculate um, some statistical calculations, okay, we are in Matplotlib. Yes. So we are going to now understand the syntax in which we can get some plots out. Maybe I should be able to pull this out and fix this here and get this one here. The code is visible, whatever I'm writing here. This one is a better so that I can write as well as explain. All right, so what do we have here? This line. The first line says matplotlib inline. Whatever is the output of the matplotlib, just put that output inline. Okay, that's what it is saying. So this one gets you the matplotlib library inline. This is no longer required now, but it has just been there. It's no longer required. Even if you don't use it, you will still get the output here. Not a problem. Now from scipy.stats import norm. Okay, so we want what we want, some um, we want to generate, we want to plot something on a two-dimensional space. Now for two-dimensional space, you want to plot, you want this some data, because we want to sort of plot a normal distribution. But each of this data is what? Some x and some y. Correct? Some x and some y. So it means what? To call for a function, you have to give it some x and some y, then only it will plot. So these are all the steps to generate those x and y, because we are not using any data here. We are simply generating some random data. So you're also learning how to generate some random data and plotting it also. Very simply done, very easily done. From scipy.stat, import norm. Norm says that I'm going to use a normal distribution. So it says I'm going to give you a list of numbers, or I'm going to describe you certain mean and a standard deviation, and then I'll tell you how many points I want, or how much is the difference that I want. Using these parameters, generate a lot of numbers in such a way that the number that comes out can be plotted, and when it plots, it should look like a normal distribution. So that's what we are doing here. So import matplotlib.pyplot as plt, import scipy.stats import norm. From scipy.stats import norm, your scipy.stats package was addressed, and then in that there is something called norm. This is, you cannot name it. It has to be sort of the inside scipy.stats. There is a class scipy.stats. There is a method called norm which is already written. A method. That norm we are going to say import that, because we want to use it. Fine. Then import matplotlib.pyplot. Under matplotlib, there are many different kinds of plots. So matplotlib.pyplot, and call it as plt in our local instance over here. So for our address, we are using plt. We are going to address the features of matplotlib.pyplot, and using norm, we are going to do what we want to do, because norm we know that it will help us give us the, it's a function or a library written inside, so we know what to do with it. Now x axis, I told you we need to define x axis, right? So x dot np dot arrange -3 to 3 with 0.1. When I say this, x is equal to np. What is np? Yeah, import. np is import numpy as np. Now x is equal to np dot arrange -3 comma 3 comma 0.1 means from -3 to 3, I want all the numbers with the difference of 0.1. So if it is 0 over here, we want 0.1, 0.2 with all the differences between these. So we want the difference between each number should be 0.1, right? So with that, we are going to get a lot of numbers. Between -3 and 3, you will have 10. So like that, I think you'll have around 60 numbers. Those numbers are in X now. Okay, let's check if those numbers are already here. You can check that. So you can check. Everything is open in this one. There is no hiding. So if you just copy this and paste it here and run this, see the array contains what? X is an array. Okay, the array is now because your np dot this np whatever is numpy as np, right? The output, the Python guys have written it such a way that the output of an np dot arrange is an array. Okay, an array of what? Array of whatever you asked it to do. What did you ask it to do? You said, give me lot of numbers, but then it says lot of numbers means what? Okay, give me lot of numbers between minus 3 and 3. Then it will ask, then obvious question is, okay, minus 3 and 3, but how much difference should be there between numbers? Okay, 0.1. Okay, now this whole problem statement is complete. So it gave us a number starting with minus 3, then minus 2.9, minus 2.8. It goes until 3, 2.9. Okay, it goes until 2.9. Start from 3, it goes until 2.9. Okay. So all of these numbers are here. Now, when we ask for plt.plot x comma y, what does a plot does? Plot plots, and plot requires x comma y to plot. So here I will give x value, and also for the same array we are going to create another norm.pdf of x, same value which is here, we are going to pass it on to norm.pdf, normal probability density function, norm.pdf of the same. So for every x here, give me some random, give me another value, some value corresponding to minus 3.0, give that new x to me, or give a new y to me. It's like this, y, we need for plotting. Okay, so flickering, huh? Is it flickering the screen, or is it constantly visible?
It's visible.
Okay, it's visible, right? Let me just do one thing. I'll just your plot actually requires you to give it x comma y. We are saying I have already have x because I have created it. I have arranged x already. Y I need it to be y is equal to norm dot pdf of your x. So give me new y's. Give me new y values in such a way that your arrangement, after you arrange it, for every x we put here, there is a corresponding y that gets generated. After plotting it, it will look like a normal distribution. That's all we have done here. Plot dot plt dot plot x comma norm
Vijay,
dot.
are you sharing anything?
Sorry.
Are you sharing anything? I'm not able to see. I'm seeing your meeting host information. That's it.
Oh, okay. Wait, let me share again. Yeah, I have shared it. I've been sharing from a long time. Is it now?
Yep, yep. Now I got
I think you were sharing the window, not.
The entire screen. I have shared the entire screen. Wait, let me do
no,
it
now
again.
yeah, again
The
it's
entire screen.
now it's visible.
It's visible.
Yep.
Now it's gone again. So that's what we are doing here with this particular. So we did that. X is equal to np dot arrange. You understood why x is equal to np dot arrange? Because this code, you need to get tuned to this. This is not copy paste. Because I told you many times, yes, you will have to find codes on the internet and copy paste it. But copy pasting is also an art. Unless you understand what you're doing, it's not going to help you. So you understood the whole idea. The whole idea is plot. You want to plot something, you have to give x comma y. If it is 3D, you have to give x comma y comma z. Here we have a 2D plot, so we need to give x comma y. Our x is our x-axis, and on our x-axis is all those numbers that we have defined. On the y-axis are subsequently matched numbers, which is y, and that y is generated out of this function norm.pdf of x. So it is actually calculating every time what could be the what probability should I assign to the number -3, so that when Vijay plots it, it should look like a normal distribution. So it is calculating that actually every time. I've given it some numbers. It is calculating. If I give probability -3, you tell me now. You know what a normal distribution is. What is the probability that it will assign to the value -3? Whether it is under 34%, whether it is under 13%, whether it is under 2% or 0.1%. What probability? Knowing the fact that this is sorry. Can anyone tell me what probability will be assigned to that?
0.1.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And what about this end here? 2.9. Here 2.9 is also same, no? Or how much?
It should be the same, right? Because
Same.
it's equal.
Absolutely.
Equivalent.
Yeah, so you now started imagining, right? I just really appreciate it because you're now starting to imagine the whole thing. Great. So that's all there is to it. Then you say plt.show. Then it will show because I have written x here. It is not showing. So let me run it. It showed. That's it. So from -3 to 3, it has given those probabilities of its occurrence, and it has given this value over here for this one, because it knows the curve has to be like this. It knows that this is what gets plotted over here, so it will automatically give more chances for this thing to happen. Okay, it will always be from 0 to 0.5 only, like half chance here, 50% chance, 100% chance will not be there for anything. Now how do you get multiple plots on the same? See, this is multiple plots. This is a fun next. Today is a fun thing. Okay, not much, only sort of hands-on. The first experiment, the first thing I took a lot of time because it's important. Once you know the context, everything is just child's play. Multiple plots on one graph, plt.plot x comma norm.pdf is already what we did here. Continuing the same code, because this I have not written the whole code here. The whole thing which is already I have written here, I have not repeated here. What I have not repeated, I have not repeated x is equal to np.arrange and all. Okay, but when you do a independently, if this was an independent code, you will have to again import from SciPy, import and all that, you have to do it. But right now I'm not doing it because this is already imported in the cell number 1, and it is also, if it is imported in the cell number 1, it holds good for cell number 2 also in Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so that's why I continued from there, and plt.plot x comma norm.pdf is first plot, plt.plot x norm.pdf, and you change some value, you took some value, and in this one you sort of said take this value x and sort of give the mean value at 1.0 and have a standard deviation of 0.5 this time. No, not 0.1. Have a standard deviation of 0.5. Means take all this x value, but give me a distribution in such a way that the mean value is at 1 and the standard deviation between them can be 0.5. So once this happens, your plot will look different. Now here we have given it has thrown out a random color, but the first one is this one, the blue one, this one, okay? Because see 0.4, 0.4. Here the scale, the shape looks different because the scale has changed. Be very careful, graphs. You have to know the scale. What scale are you doing? Whether it is a normal scale, whether it is a logarithmic scale, it's very important. Okay. So here the scale has changed. That's why you look at it as a small graph because it has to accommodate. This plot has to accommodate even this graph also. So the scale has changed, and together you are able to compare both the phenomena now. Okay. Now how do you save this to a file? Very simple. plt.plot. You did this again. plt.plot. You got the next plot. Now plt.savefig is also an extended method inside this plt, which is now our local name for matplotlib.pyplot. That's it. So you save the figure here and we are done. So how do you adjust the axis? Sometimes you want to be able to sort of, after putting the whole thing out here, you want to extend those axes. You want to extend those ticks over here, the axis, right? The values on which you are going to measure this, you would extend it. Maybe I started with -3 and 3, but no, I also want maybe from -5 and 5. Okay, so once you want that, you will create something called axis is equal to plt.axis. So we call another function. We call a function and we say we are going to use this axis and we are going to call it as axis in our local thing, and axis dot set. Now why are we doing this? There is no logic to it. This is how Python people have said that we have to do it. This is how they have said we have made it easy for you, but please follow our syntax. That's what they are saying, and that's it. They have made it very easy, and we're going to follow those syntax. But understand the logic in which it is followed. plt.axis, we call that method. Whatever that method transfers its capabilities to a certain object, a local object. That local object is your axis. Okay, we can call it anything. Okay, but here for the simplicity's sake and for relevance sake, we are going to call it axis. No problem. Once this axis is equal to plt.axis is set, we set axis dot set underscore x limit. This is also, this whole statement is also given by those who wrote this function. Once you write this function, this is true. That is what they say. Axis dot set x set underscore x limit is not what, it is not something which I have defined. It comes with the documentation. So we set it to -5 and 5. Put it as a list. Okay, there's a bracket, but we send a list of it. A new range has been set for x-axis. A new range has been set for y-axis in the same way. And also we can define where we want to get the ticks in. Ticking. See this? Ticks. What are the ticks I'm talking about? This is the tick. For 4 there is one mark here. For -0.1 there is a mark here. So it was a tick here. There was no tick here. Okay. This was there. Okay. It's always there. But sometimes you may want to remove certain ticks. But when you define it like this, you can probably just axis.set x ticks only for -1 and 1. You can try it as an assignment. Remove all this. I'll send this code to you. Remove all that and set the ticks only for -1 and 1, and you will see only on -1 and 1 you will have this dash mark. Everything else, everywhere else, it will just go away. So in this particular piece, we just studied how to set the limits, new limits for your x-axis, scales for your x and y. Mind you, this is not your data. Okay. Hope you're understanding. This is the layout on which you will plot your data. But if you simply give random scales which has no connection with the range of your data, you will not see the right graph. So you should know in what range your data is. Then only you will be able to see the right graph. Hope it's making sense to you. If it doesn't make sense, we will address that in our next class or next doubt session. Now adding a grid is also very important because we are now what comparing these two. So sometimes we have multiple plots, not just one, two. We have so many different plots, and we need to sort of describe the data. So we want to get some hints out. So we are finding it very difficult here to just match it. Imagining one line, imaginary line here, imagining another imaginary line here. Why you want all that imagination? Let's make it easy. Let's put a grid on. So simple. The same code continues. Only thing that changes is access dot grid. So get the grid in, and now it's so easy for you to see the or describe or set some context in which you want to uh, observe the phenomena, observe the differences. Cool. So change line types and colors. Change the line types and colors. Anything, there is nothing new here. Until this, the old code. Only plt.plot x comma norm.pdf of x. You are saying b dash. We are saying b dash. Blue, make it a dash of blue. Okay. And the other one, which was the red color one, I defined it as a colon of reds. If I want to change it, let's say I want to make it plus. I don't know. Let me check if it can happen. I want plus 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 mark here. This blue thing, whatever is there here, instead of just a blue line, I want this entire thing to contain plus plus symbols. So let me see. See, now it is containing the plus plus symbol. Plus plus plus, right? And red. And this is, I think, I've changed it to this one. I think somewhere in a different space I have, maybe I'll use a star for this and run. Got it, right? So this is it. That's all there is to it. Sometimes you want a different picture, sometimes you want a different picture. So all these are things about putting that thing over here. Now, what if you want to label the axis and adding a legend? It is called legends, adding legends. Because you want to describe, you want to, let's say, make a report for your reporting officer. After printing this, will you write something on a paper or with your pen? You cannot do that. So, Matplotlib allows you to create certain labels also. See, this highlighted code is the same code that has repeated from the above. This also is the same code that has repeated from the above. The only thing that changes is this new entries where we are saying plt.x label. Now, how did I come to know that it is called x label? Nothing. It is just a part of the document. We just asked how to label graph in Matplotlib, and the documentation says for that you have to use plt.x label and put the event name on. It will understand when you say x label. It will understand that it is you're talking about the x-axis. When you say y label, it understands that you're talking about y-axis, because every time in plotting something, you are plotting between x and y only. And universally accepted standards is this one is x-axis, this one is y-axis. X is an independent axis. Whatever the independent thing like time, it is plotted on x-axis. The dependent phenomena is plotted on the y-axis. That is why we call y is equal to mx plus c. Y is a function of x. Okay, so if this particular axis is a function of x, so the fact that x label and y label being standard is always standardized. That's why plt.x label is a standard library, standard method which is being used. And in this case, I want to call it as event 1. You can call it as anything, age, salary, whatever is the phenomena you're describing, you can call it. Okay, but for general purpose, we'll call it event 1. For y label, we are calling event 2. Okay, this is event 1. And so after that, we say plt.plot double dash. See, instead of that, I have changed a little. Here, I think it was b plus. So here we have taken double dashes. So it is going to give you that double dash. Okay, and this one again goes back to the colon. And that's it. Plot dot legend event 1 and event 2. But what is this? Local is equal to 4. Local is equal to 4 is a new what? This is a new argument. This is a function. In this function, it takes arguments. Here, in how many arguments it is taking? Two arguments. One is this list. The second argument is the location. Where do you want the legend to be? So this location has many numbers. If I add 6 and run, it came here. If I add 1 and run, it came here. So I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I add 8, should it be here? I don't know. I have not checked it. Let me check. I don't know. Okay. I just want to. Chat is coming over here. Anyway, this thing you guys can figure it out. Best just to hold it in 1, 2, 3, 4. So depends, because if too much of your information, if all your information is here and this space is empty, right? It's makes sense for you to put this legend in an empty space so that the guys working on the data can look at it. Right now, I think we have put it in the wrong place. It's not good. I think I should put it back to sort of 6 or something. Right. So this is empty, and here the person can actually look at the entire data. This is how it is. All right. So next class we are going to move forward and do all of this. But you know what I'll do now? I think it is very easy. It's straightforward, and I'll finish it if we have some time. Let me finish it. It's no big deal. Okay, pie chart. We have done the labeling and stuff. Then this is just a pie chart. How do you put a pie chart? To put a pie chart, let's go from. Let's understand. It is just sort of a representation of the entire volume and how much of the distribution is being taken up by each labels or each class of information. When you want to depict it as a circular thing, so it is a pie chart. So every data, everything, all your data, when you want to describe it in terms of 360 degrees, so what you need? You need first plot dot show. Something has to be shown. Then you need the title for that pie chart. So we got plt dot title. Then we need what? We need the labels. Then we need the values. Correct? To plot this, what do you need? If you want to hand draw this, what do you need? You need the names of this. Then you also need what is there, what is how much information is here. All of that is needed. So we need to be able to tell Python that these are the values. So for that, we are going to use plt.py, another function, where we are going to give it values, colors, labels, and also what kind of pie chart it is. It's an explode pie chart. So it is going to explode that. Okay? Explode something. I mean, if you think there is something different about Russia, maybe this is coronavirus distribution, and maybe Russia has the least amount of infection right now. So you want to make sure that the person who is looking at this data clearly understand that the context or this entire data or the observation or the discussion is about Russia. That's why you want to explode it out. You're understanding how this will be used? So when you explode Russia out, there's no okay, everything, all your data, all the analysis, all the sample, all the estimate, all the confidence intervals, everything is being described with respect to Russia's unique disposition in this analysis. It could be different. Maybe if it is about how many people are, how many best papers are coming out in the world, which country has the best scientific paper which is being produced, that data will be different. Maybe it's not Russia, maybe it's China, United States. So you would want to explore United States. So for that, of course, now you need another way in which you are going to mention which one has to be exploded, right? Until we have plt.py, which is going to give the combined value of values, colors, labels, and whether explode is equal to true, cool. Now, what are the labels? Labels is equal to labels means this labels is actually what you're supposed to give this plot.py. This labels is what you have defined here. This can be different. Okay, local label. You can change it to local labels also. No problem. In this labels, we are sending it a list of string. A list of string. Okay. What are those strings? Strings are the labels. India, United States, Russia, China, Europe. Explode is another list which is defining which one you are going to explode and how much value you are going to explode. So are we going to explode India? No. Are we going to explode United States in this analysis? No. Are we going to explode Russia? Yes. But how much? By 20%. If you do 5 or 6, 0.5, it will look larger. Okay. Try 1.0 or 1.1 or something over here and it will not take it because the explosion I think is between 0 and 100, so it will take only from value from 0. If you want to explore India also a little bit, let's say least effect on India, let's say you want to explore India also to a little thing. Sometimes you want to talk about two different phenomena, so you can put that. See, India also got exploded now. So they have made it very easy. Now color schemes. Color schemes also have to be matched. We want to make India red. We want to make Russia blue. We want to make China teal. So whatever is here, the first value of India exploded 0.2 color. So the vector notation, whatever we are having here, it is in sequence. That's what I wanted to tell you. You have to put it in sequence. That's it. Okay. So if you interchange it, everything will gets interchanged. So it expects you to give it data in a very structured manner, and these are values. Okay, it's a 12, 55, 4, 32, 14. These are just values. You can put those values. It automatically converts it into a 360-degree uh, schema, and it will produce that. So it will know that 55 is a large chunk. How many percent occupation will 55 have if I represent this entire data as a 360-degree chart? It will calculate it. So let it calculate. You don't have to worry about it. So of course, 4 is very less. So it knows that it gave 4 a very small pie. And this one is United States has a bigger chunk of the pie. So it will know how to calculate it and report it for you. The same thing is much easier with bar chart. You give values, you get colors, and you plot the bar and you put range 0 to 5 and put the whole thing here, and that's it. You get the values. Okay, 0 to 5. I need 5 bar charts. There'll be 5 bars. Okay, and these are my values, and these are the colors I want. These are the values, and these are the colors I want. So you can just cross check it, and you'll see that it's pretty much obvious. Now scatter plot is very important. More all the time we want to scatter. When I said scattering is where unsupervised learning begins. Scattering is where your exploratory data analysis begins. Simple thing, you just call for plt.scatter and give it x comma y values. Simply scatter it. I don't know what is there, just scatter it. That's all we want to do. Okay. So here in this scatter plot, I have used a random number generator. So we have just taken x is equal to randomly generate 500 numbers. Then I have taken y is equal to another randomly generate another 500 numbers and then scatter it. And this is how the scatter looks. Simple. But this scatter uh, thing is given by PLT, the PyPlot itself. But this random number generator, it simply just doesn't appear out of somewhere or some magically it is true. For this also you have to import a random number generator. So we import it from PyLab, import random number generator. So no need to by heart it. Just Google, I want to generate random numbers on Python, and it will give you a lot of options. A histogram is something like this. A bar graph is something where you have the data, each individual data is plotted. Histogram also looks like that, as if the individual bars are being plotted. But in a histogram, you actually define how many buckets do you want to be plotted. In the sense, let's say you have this. Let's say you have some lot of data. Let's say 20,000 lines of data, and you want to plot a histogram for it. Because plotting the entire 20,000 lines means what? You're asking the Python to go step by step. One, plot it. Second number, plot it. We don't want Python to compute so much. So instead of that, what we do is we take one dot 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 20,000 too much dot 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 20,000, and we say let us divide this into 10 buckets. If I divide this into 10 buckets, I think we will have 2,000 each bucket. So sequentially, yeah, this is sequence, not random. This is not random. From first to last, the first 2,000 is one bucket. Second 2,000 another bucket. Third 2,000 another bucket. Okay. So now we have totally 10 buckets, and the mean of that each bucket is one new value. Value 1, value 2, value 3. Instead of plotting 20,000, we'll just plot 10 values now, because eventually we are only interested in not in the data itself but its distribution. So if a small calculation like this one time is going to save us a lot of time. So in this case also, what I have done is I have created 10,000 points with the mean value of around 27,000 and a standard deviation of 15,000. So we plotted. Sorry.
Your mean is not visible exactly. It shifted to somewhere else.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Earlier you saw me drawing that, no? The drawing thing you saw, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
yeah. This one, when I shifted it, it didn't show up, right? I think there is some technical glitch. Even when I'm writing on it, it is flickering a lot. Let me check that later. Anyway, so here we have, I have randomly created some data. How random it is? I've said I want 10,000 points. Then I said I want the mean value to be at 27,000. And I want the standard deviation between those points to be 15,000. Then I said plot.hist incomes, comma. What is incomes? This is incomes. Incomes is equal to np.random.normal. Give me 10,000 points and make it look like a normal data. To make it look like a normal distribution, I have to give it the mean value and standard deviation. Correct. Without you giving mean value and standard deviation, how will it know how to make it a normal distribution? Correct. So we gave that value. So all those 10,000 points now are in incomes. It's a big array. That we are going to now convert incomes, comma 50. Okay. Means 50 buckets. Divide this incomes data into 50 buckets and take the mean of all the 50 points and plot it. So let's take it and plot it. Now, tell me now, I'm going to ask a quiz. If I want this curve to get smooth. Yeah.
Okay, but it's so deceptive here. No, it's so sunny outside, but it's still pretty cold. Wear your jacket and no.
So, Govind sir, you have a question? Or I'm hearing something. I thought there's a question.
North Carolina for plot. It's so sunny out there. Continue going.
Okay, got it. All right. So 50 incomes, comma 50. Okay. Now Now the question is, guys, please listen to this. Very important. If I want this curve to get smoother and smoother, should I increase this value of 50 or decrease the value of 50? if you have understood the idea of the bucket, think about it. Even when I got asked this question in one of the uh, this one, I also didn't get the answer right. So maybe you guys can get the answer right. I want a smooth. This is not. Is it smooth? Is this smooth? Is it looking smooth? No, no. It's not looking smooth because it's not supposed to look smooth, because this is all collection of many bar graphs, collection of many bars over here. But if I want to make it look smooth, should I increase the bucket size or decrease the bucket size?
Decrease?
Decrease?
Yeah.
Decrease? Shall I decrease? How many says decrease? How many say increase? Vinay, decrease or increase? Vinay? No comments?
Yeah, Vijay.
Should I decrease this value or increase this value? If I want a smoother curve, let me go with the idea first. I'm going to increase this. See what Lata ma'am said is right. We are getting to smoother and smoother curves as we decrease the bucket size 3. What happens? So I think what ma'am said was decrease. So if you decrease it, you are moving away from the smoothness, because if you have only one bucket, it means what? You have
It will be
taken
almost like a bar graph.
because you have taken the entire 10,000 points, okay, and calculated the average of it. That is one number, correct? If you take the
Yes.
entire 10,000 point and calculate the average, that is just one number. Now it is being represented by just one number. But if you increase it, make it 1,000 buckets and run it, it will start looking, it will take time. Okay, it will start, because it will start. See, even my system, which is a gaming system, to calculate this, it is taking time. Okay, only for 1,000 values. Now, of course, for 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 values are silly values when it comes to analysis in data science field. So that's the reason why we convert the whole thing into histogram representation, so that we can deal with the descriptive aspect in a much more easier way, faster way. So make sure that when you are given a lot of data, like lakhs of data, first get that thing done. Get it to the histogram, make it sort of bucket the values and hold it in a different way, so that you can do that analysis. So if I make it 10,000, meaning I plot everything, it means that I'm simply plotting the whole thing. It'll take time, maybe a lot of time, because it's going to take 10 times more time than it took for this one. But let's see. Still calculating. You can check it here. See, it's gotten smoother. The reason why it's looking like this is because if I rerun it, it'll look different actually. If I rerun this now, you will not get the same repetition. If you rerun it, because it is randomly choosing, right? So it will rerun. So I hope you are getting the point. It is getting to smoother and smoother distributions. So this one, this box and whisker plot, we are going to do it when we touch Seaborn. I told you the Seaborn thing, right? So to understand box and whisker plot, we have to understand. We've already understood it, outliers and mean value, but I don't want to explain something which is very important, very important for data analysis at the end of the class. Okay, I want to explain it at the beginning and spend at least half of the class doing this. So with that, we will end today's class, and you guys will get the recording. And once you see it again in your leisure time, when you have time to reflect on it, then it'll be cool. We'll have questions and we'll address it. Okay, shall we end this session today?
Okay.
Do write to me, do shoot the mails, okay, if you have any doubts. All right, soon enough we are going to have a test and a quiz, so make sure that you keep listening to this lectures that I'm sending as a recording. Chalo then, okay. Bye bye. Thank you. Any questions right now? Any questions? Nothing out there, no? No questions for now?
Sir, can you mail this coding?
Yeah, of course. Yes, definitely. It will be in the drive, shared drive. You can take it from there. But I would like to mail
Sir,
it because I'll mail it to everyone because in shared drive, some people, I don't know, last time a file was deleted from there. So I'll mail it to everyone. Okay?
okay, sir.
Okay.
Sir, one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, in plotting the graph,
Huh?
in plotting the graph, you have used ticks and range. You have took the range from 5 to -5.
Where?
So I guess there is no need to use the ticks. If you are in ticks and limits.
Yeah, I'm on the screen now. You're seeing this, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir. You set the limit from -5 to 5 axis. So if we cannot also, it will, I guess.
No, this is only to.
Want to modify the ticks, then
Yeah.
we can use it.
Yes. If you want to modify the text.
Otherwise, it's not necessary.
Yeah, otherwise automatically it is giving it. But when you want a certain tick to be visible, then you would want
that time only.
See this? Sometimes you want to put different plots. You want to see the whole data science is you analyze data and put a story in a pictorial way. So we are not interested in other ticks. We are only interested in this particular phenomena. Okay. So to show that thing, we use those ticks. That's all. I wanted to give this as an assignment, but anyway, it's okay. These are all simple things. So this is the whole idea, and I'll send this file to you guys. There's so many things left actually. There are so many things. It's a long. You can see this. Right? There are so many hands-on mean, median, standard deviation, distribution, percentile, moments, outliers, covariance, correlation. So many things are there still to do hands-on. But all that I'll send. You guys can practice it. Not a problem. Okay. So any other questions? No, right? Okay. Ma'am, question? Any other question, please? Okay, then I'll end the meeting. Huh? Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you.